Minnesota. Let's move on to Minnesota beats Northwestern in this one, 75-66, coming off of Northwestern's overtime game against Purdue, where they looked fantastic and this one. But Minnesota gets it on, sorry, not on the road, at home over Buie and the Wildcats. Buie was still really good in this one, just didn't have enough help. And like I said, Minnesota, I think they're just a really, really well-built team. I think Ben Johnson's done a very good job of putting this roster together, and they complement each other very well. They lost Jamison Battle, but it doesn't feel like they really lost much. I'm not trying to be disrespectful there. I'm just saying, like, Ben Johnson's covered it really well and put a nice team together. Kent, what were your thoughts on this game?
Loved it. Little shameless plug here. I had Parker Fox from Minnesota on my podcast earlier this week, and he's the second athlete I've had on my show this year, and both of them, after coming on my show, got a big win right after coming on my show. So, Coleman Hawkins, the invite is still there. So just come on right before a big win. He still has not replied to my DM yet, but we're waiting. Fingers are crossed. I think I'm going to get him. No, but great win for Minnesota. I was really shocked. I woke up that morning, I looked at the line, and Minnesota was favored. And I thought that was weird just to begin with because Northwestern's been playing so good. And Vegas tends to get these things right, and they were right about this one. Pharrell Payne was unbelievable in this game. He had the 14 points, but really it was the other stuff that he did. He got rebounds in crucial moments. He's just been playing out of his mind lately. He's such an important piece for especially the interior of Minnesota's offense and defense. He's been playing really good. You already mentioned Elijah Hawkins, massive three right before halftime that I still don't know to this moment if it tied the game or just pulled them within one because they went and reviewed another three, and then I couldn't tell what was happening. CBS says it was tied at halftime, and it wasn't, according to the broadcast when I was watching it. But then I can't remember who. I was about to pull it up. Minnesota was playing somebody a few weeks back, and the foul up three thing came up, and they ended up almost winning a game because somebody fouled them, and then they missed it and almost made a shot at the end. Well, they almost blew this game because they fouled way too early. At the end of regulation, they had 18 seconds left and fouled Northwestern. Just gave them way too much time to make both free throws and still make it a close game. And then Buie had a chance to win it at the end. And same thing I was just talking about with, I can't remember who I was just talking about, Juwan Gary tonight. Buie almost made an and one at the end of regulation and just didn't go down. And then I think Northwestern ran out of gas in overtime. Honestly, they've played how many overtimes this year? They lost back-to-back overtime games just this week. So just a little bit too much on the road. And like I said, super excited for Minnesota, man. This story has been crazy. I don't know anybody that picked Minnesota. I know I'm going long on Minnesota, but I'm getting really excited about them. I don't think anyone picked them to finish above like 10 in the Big Ten, and they're right in the middle of things right now. They are, I know we talked a lot about making the tournament, but they could really make a run here. They're not, I don't think they're in right now, but they're right at 14 wins. They have every opportunity. Got some big games coming up at home. I mean, I'm excited about them. It would be awesome for them to make a nice run at the Big Ten tournament. It's in Minnesota. It's right like 5 minutes away from where they play. I'm just getting really excited about Minnesota. It's been fun to watch them, and it's fun to see a team that wasn't expected to do this well this year. It reminds me of Northwestern in football this year. So that was my thoughts about the game and pretty much Minnesota this season. I know that was a lot, man, but some of these teams, like I get behind, and I just get super excited about them, and Minnesota's one of them this year.
Now, Jeff's a Minnesota appreciator as well with you. So Payne is a grown man, and he's going to be a player in this conference. I couldn't agree more, man. Between Elijah Hawkins, Pharrell Payne, Dawson Garcia, Cam Christie, even Mike Mitchell,
he hit a massive three in this game. Yeah. Christie did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
They only got 3 bench points. 2 of those from Parker Fox. So
my boy, Parker.
But yeah, he only had 5 minutes and 2 points. So there's that like point to minute ratio that we were talking about.
That's the only thing I didn't like about that game. Like I was like, where's Parker at, man? He needs more minutes.
My guy Parker.
This is ridiculous.
Ryan, Northwestern has been in overtime 3 of their last 4 games. I mean, it's a lot for the Wildcats. What were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, that's just Northwest. It feels like it's just Northwestern basketball. The last like 3 years, it feels like that. I don't know how many games have gone to overtime. It feels like every game is overtime. Just the way they play and the way that their games are always coming down to the wire. Like every Purdue game they play, obviously when they win half the time. But that's also just like Big Ten basketball. Minnesota, I agree. Minnesota is so much fun. Nebraska is like the fun team in the conference, but Minnesota is like what the fun team should actually be because Nebraska's good. Like they've proven they're legit good. They're a tournament team most likely for sure. Minnesota's on the outside looking in. They're trying to be that real sleeper. Like Nebraska coming into the year, people were kind of like ready for something. They knew Keisei Tominaga. They knew they had a couple of transfers. But Minnesota was like, we have no clue what's going on. Like we know for Payne, I remember talking to him a lot in the summer about how he could have a big breakout because the role is there. And but Minnesota is like the actual fun team. Not to say Nebraska is not fun, but Minnesota is like the true fun sleeper.
100%.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of people didn't know like Minnesota players coming into the year, right? And that's kind of the fun part of it is like you're getting to know some of these players and seeing them excel and be better. So, I'm curious, Ryan. You said you got Minnesota looking from the outside in. They're 0-3 in quad one games. What's the likelihood that Minnesota could make it into the tournament? And what kind of key? I don't know if you know this, but are there any key games coming up they really really need to win in order to get in the tournament?
Yeah, like it's less than 50% because they're on the outside right now, and obviously every game is going to be tough. But the biggest thing is because every game in the Big Ten is not a bad loss per se. Like obviously you don't want to lose to Minnesota and Penn State and Indiana or whatever when they're not tournament teams. But the more important things are having quad one wins, which are also wins against other tourney teams. Like wins against the field is a very off the paper, I'll call it, argument that the selection committee will use when they're arguing or debating for one team over another. So I look at they play, obviously Purdue is a big one, but Illinois, when they play Northwestern again, is obviously massive. They can sweep them. The Michigan State game coming up is big, but then they don't really play any other major tournament teams. So like the games against Iowa, who is not a tournament team also, but like could be on the cusp. Like they have to win those games too, those cusp games, and then win one like Michigan State game, and we could be talking about something.
You got to remember too, Big Ten tournament. Me and I think I'm leading the charge on this now. Me and Goldie will be walking into the Target Center together, hand in hand, leading the charge for the Minnesota fans, and they're going to make a run in this tournament. They're going to make a run in the Big Ten tournament, and it's going to be because of me. I did want to bring this up too. Hoop Informatics, as an account I just found today. I'll be honest, I don't know how much credibility this has.
You don't know how valid they are?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll give them a giant shout out right now since I don't know if they're valid or not, but it looked legit. They put out a graph that had every Big Ten team's like percentage chance to make the NCAA tournament. And I think Minnesota was the most shocking one on this chart because they have them at a 2.6% chance of making the tournament, which I think is just a touch too low for me and my Gophers. I think that's too low. Right? That's got to be way too low, Ryan?
Yeah,
right?
It's when you have so many power like big time games. They're not like Iowa and Rutgers aren't like big time games. They're not all quad one, but when you have so many games that are good enough opponents to move the needle for you against the teams that the other bubble teams, I think that's too low. I think maybe it's based on the chance, like, hey, like they got like a dozen games, we'll call it left, like, and every game they could lose realistically. So like they're gonna have to do like almost near perfect to get in because they have so much work to do still. But I think still like 2 is kind of low. I'd put it at like without any math into it, like I don't know, maybe like 10 to 20.
We got those. We got to pump those numbers up, Minnesota. Come on, Minnesota. Those are rookie numbers. We got to get those numbers up. It is interesting though because he did reply to his own tweet, and they are the 7th. Like they're ranked 7th on how many wins they're going to get at 18 wins. So yeah, I guess we are for sure a 6 bid league at this point. If that's the case, if they're 7th and they're not getting in, then the other 6 have to, right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know. Maybe I'm putting too much thought into this random accounts tweet that I just found today.
No, I was just thinking that we just hit an hour on here and we still have one more game to talk about.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Next one. Thanks for listening. In the Big Ten Huddle, please do like and subscribe. We appreciate that. If this was your first time listening, we are the Big Ten Huddle. We cover all things Big Ten football and basketball. We have a long episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night, all at 9 o'clock. So come in, check us out, get in the chat, let us know what you're thinking. We would love to have you join us and learn more about the Big Ten.